The transport shuttle shook hard as it entered the docking bay, gripped her seat and looked out the small window. The Galactic Military Academy floated in space like a metal mountain. It was bigger than any building she had ever seen on Earth, bigger than any city. Ships moved around it like tiny insects around a giant beast. She was 19 years old. She was the first human ever accepted into this academy, and she was terrified. The shuttle door opened with a hiss, grabbed her small bag and stepped out into the atrium. The ceiling was so high she could not see it clearly. Lights floated in the air without any wires. The floor was made of some smooth black stone that reflected everything like dark water. But barely noticed any of this. She was too busy looking at the other cadets. They were everywhere, hundreds of them, and not one of them looked human. A group of stood near the entrance. They were insect-like creatures, taller than two men standing on each other's shoulders. Their bodies were covered in hard black armor that grew from their own skin. Their eyes were large and dark and showed no feeling. Behind them, a pack of moved with liquid grace. They looked like wolves that had learned to walk on two legs. Their fur was silver and their teeth were long and sharp. They smelled the air as walked past, and she saw their ears turn toward her. Near the far wall, she spotted a group of. They had 4 arms each and skin that looked like polished metal. Their faces were almost human, but their eyes were too large and too golden. They moved their 4 hands constantly, as if they could not stay still. And then there were others, so many others, beings with tentacles, beings with wings, beings that floated without touching the ground, beings made of what looked like living stone. Was the smallest creature in the room. She felt the stares before she heard the whispers. The translation chip in her ear picked up the voices around her. That is the human. So small like a child. Their bones break easily. I read about it. She will not last 1 week. Why did they even accept her species? Humans are barely above prey animals. Kept walking. She did not look at anyone. She kept her eyes forward and her back straight. Her heart was beating so fast she thought it might burst from her chest, but she did not let it show on her face. A shadow fell over her. She looked up and up and up. Instructor Al stood before her. He was a reptilian creature, covered in dark green scales that looked like armor. His eyes were yellow with vertical black pupils like a snake. He was 3 times her height and probably 10 times her weight. When he spoke, his voice sounded like rocks grinding together. New cadets will form a line, he said. I will call your names. You will respond. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will not move unless ordered to move. Is this understood? Yes, instructor. The voices of hundreds of cadets filled the atrium, added her own small voice to the chorus. Al began reading names from a holographic list that floated in front of him. The names were strange and difficult. One by one, cadets stepped forward, confirmed their presence and stepped back. Then Al paused. His yellow eyes scanned the crowd until they found. His pupils narrowed. Human designation, he said slowly. Earth, species classification, persistence predator. He made a sound that might have been a laugh. Gravity tolerance, low. Natural weapons, none. Natural armor, none. Combat rating. He looked at her for a long moment. Undetermined. The laughter started immediately. It came from everywhere. The clicking of mandibles, the barking sounds of even the usually quiet made soft sounds of amusement. Stood perfectly still. She did not react. She did not cry. She did not run. She simply waited for the laughter to end. It took a long time. Al watched her through it all. Something flickered in his yellow eyes. Maybe it was surprise. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was nothing at all. When the laughter finally died, he simply moved on to the next name. The orientation lasted for hours. Learned where she would sleep, where she would eat, where she would train. She learned the rules of the academy. She learned that failure meant expulsion. She learned that weakness meant death in the simulations. She learned that no one expected her to survive. When it was finally over, she found her quarters. It was a tiny room with a bed that was too hard and walls that were too bare, but it was hers. She closed the door behind her and finally let herself breathe. Her hands were shaking. She had been holding them still for so long that they ached. She sat on the bed and pulled out a small device from her bag. It was a hologram projector, old and scratched. She pressed the button, and light bloomed in the dark room. Face appeared, her younger sister, only 15 years old, waving goodbye at the spaceport. Her eyes were red from crying, but she was smiling. She was always smiling, even when she was sad. "Come back to me," the recording said. "Come back and tell me everything. I believe in you. I believe in you more than anything." Reached out and touched the hologram. Her fingers passed through the light, but she did not care. "I will make you proud," she whispered. "I will make them all see." She thought about the laughter. She thought about the stares. She thought about Instructor Al and his yellow eyes and his list of all the things humans did not have. No natural weapons, no natural armor, low gravity tolerance, combat rating undetermined. But there were things that list did not include, things that could not be measured by machines or written in databases. Humans were stubborn. Humans were clever. Humans had survived ice ages and plagues and wars that should have destroyed them. Humans had crawled out of caves and reached for the stars. Humans did not give up. Was human. And tomorrow she would show them what that meant. She turned off the hologram and lay down on the hard bed. The ceiling above her was gray and empty. Somewhere beyond it, a billion stars were burning. Somewhere among those stars, Earth was spinning and was sleeping, and everyone loved was waiting for her to come home. She closed her eyes. Tomorrow would be hard. Tomorrow would be painful. Tomorrow they would laugh at her again. But she would still be standing when the laughter stopped. She would always be standing when the laughter stopped. 3 weeks passed like 3 years. Every morning woke before the lights came on. She stretched her sore muscles and checked her body for new bruises. There were always new bruises, purple and yellow and green, covering her arms and legs like a strange painting. She had stopped counting them after the first week. The training was designed for beings much larger than her. The obstacle course had walls that were 4 meters tall. The other cadets jumped over them easily. Had to climb, her fingers searching for tiny cracks in the smooth surface, her arms burning with effort. By the time she reached the top, most of the others had already finished the course. The weapons were too heavy. The standard training rifle was meant for hands, which were 3 times the size of human hands, could barely lift it. When she fired, the recoil threw her backward. The first time it happened, she hit the ground so hard that she heard something crack in her chest. 2 ribs broken. The medical bay fixed them in an hour. The doctor, a strange floating creature made of light and gas, told her she should rest for a day. She was back in training the next morning. The sparring matches were the worst, was placed against cadets who outweighed her by hundreds of kilograms. The matches never lasted more than a few seconds. A single hit from an arm sent her flying across the ring. Could pin her to the ground before she could even raise her hands. She lost every single match. But she always got back up. The other cadets noticed this. At first, they thought it was funny. Then they thought it was strange. Then they started to wonder if something was wrong with her. "Why does she keep trying?" I asked one day, watching pick herself up from the mat for the 10th time. "She cannot win. It is impossible." "Humans are stupid," another cadet answered. "They do not know when to quit." "Maybe her brain is damaged," a third one suggested, "from all the hits." The mockery grew worse. Someone scratched words into his locker door, "fragile handle with care." Her food was sometimes knocked from her hands in the mess hall. Her equipment went missing. Once, she found her bed sheets torn to pieces. She never complained. She never reported anyone. She simply cleaned up the mess, found new sheets, and kept going. One evening, sat alone in the mess hall. The other cadets kept their distance, as if her weakness might be contagious. She ate her nutrient paste slowly, too tired to taste it. A shadow fell across her table. She looked up. The standing before her had 4 arms and skin like polished bronze. Her eyes were large and golden, and they studied with something that looked like curiosity. "May I sit?" they asked. Blinked. In 3 weeks no one had asked to sit with her. "Yes," she said. The sat down. She placed 2 of her hands on the table and used the other 2 to hold her own food tray. "My name is," she said. "I have been watching you." "Everyone watches me," said. "I am the entertainment." Tilted her head. "That is not why I watch. I watch because I do not understand." "What do you not understand?" "Why you keep getting up." Leaned forward. "I have seen you break bones. I have seen you bleed. I have seen you fail every test and lose every fight. Any other being would have quit by now. Any other being would have gone home." Put down her spoon. "Do quit." When something is impossible, yes, we accept reality. We adapt to what is possible. Humans adapt too, said, but we adapt differently. We do not accept that something is impossible. We just keep trying until it becomes possible. Was silent for a moment. That sounds like madness. Maybe it is, smiled for the first time in weeks. But it is our kind of madness. It is how we survived on our world. It is how we reached the stars. We are not strong like, we are not fast like, we do not have 4 arms like you, but we have something else. What? We do not stop. Looked at her for a long time. Then she made a sound that might have been a laugh. You are very strange, human. My name is. You are very strange. From that day on, sat with her at meals. They did not talk much, but it was nice not to be alone. Meanwhile, in the science wing of the academy, a young human woman named was studying data on her screen. Was not a cadet. She was a researcher, sent by Earth to study how humans adapted to alien environments. Did not know she existed, but knew about. She had been tracking the young cadet's biometric data since day 1. What she saw made her frown. This does not make sense, she muttered. According to the data, his muscles were getting denser, not just stronger but actually changing at the cellular level. Her bones, which had broken 3 times in 3 weeks, were healing differently. The new bone was harder than the old. Her heart was pumping more efficiently. Her lungs were processing oxygen better. Pulled up comparison charts. Normal human adaptation took months or years, was changing in weeks. The body is responding to stress, said to herself, but at this rate. She ran more calculations. Her eyes widened. Commander needs to see this, she said. That night sent a message to Earth. It was short and urgent. Human adaptation rate exceeds all projections. Subject is not just surviving, she is evolving. Recommend continued observation. Do not remove her from the program. Something important is happening here. Back in her quarters, knew nothing of this. She was too busy wrapping bandages around her swollen hands. Tomorrow was the combat assessment. She would face the training drones for the first time. She would probably fail. She would probably get hurt. The other cadets would probably laugh. But she would get up again. She would always get up again. Because that was what humans did. She looked at the hologram of one more time before she slept. I am still here, she whispered. I am still fighting. I will not quit. And somewhere deep inside her body, in places she could not see or feel, her cells were listening. Her bones were growing stronger. Her muscles were growing denser. Her heart was learning to pump harder and faster. She was becoming something more. She just did not know it yet. The quarterly assessment was the most important test at the academy. Every cadet had to face the training deck and survive for 3 minutes against combat drones. The drones were machines designed to fight. They were fast and strong, and they did not feel pain or mercy. The difficulty was set based on each species. Faced brutal war machines, faced packs of hunter drones, faced multiple attackers that tested their forearms. Humans had never been tested before. There was no setting for them. The assessment hall was massive. Hundreds of seats surrounded a circular arena where the training deck waited. The other cadets filled the seats, eager to watch. Combat assessments were entertainment as much as education. Instructor Al stood at the control panel. His yellow eyes moved across the crowd until they found sitting alone in the cadet section. Sat a few seats away, her 4 hands clasped together. "First group," Al announced. 5 cadets walked into the arena. The drones that emerged from the floor were terrifying. They were made of black metal with spinning blades and plasma weapons. Any one of them could cut a human in half with a single strike. But they had natural armor. The blades bounced off their hard shells. The plasma burned their skin but did not break through. They fought back with their powerful arms, crushing drones like insects. 3 minutes passed, all 5 were still standing. The crowd cheered. Al called. The wolf-like beings were faster than the eye could follow. They dodged attacks and struck back with claws and teeth. Their fur was burned in places, but they survived easily. More groups followed. Floating beings, stone creatures, all of them faced drones calibrated for their species. All of them survived. Then Al paused. Human designation. The arena went quiet. Then the laughter began. Stood up. Her legs felt weak, but she forced them to move. She walked down the stairs and into the arena. The floor was cold metal beneath her boots. The walls around her were from thousands of battles. She looked up at the crowd. Hundreds of alien faces looked back at her. Most were smiling. Some were already making jokes. "What drones will they even use?" someone asked loudly. "Cleaning robots." More laughter. Al touched the control panel. The computer spoke in a flat voice. Human detected, setting difficulty to minimal. The drones that rose from the floor were small. Their movements were slow. They had no blades, no plasma weapons. They were padded with soft material. They looked like toys. Training wheels, I shouted. The laughter grew louder. Did not laugh, she moved. The drones came at her one by one. She dodged the first, blocked the second, grabbed the third and threw it into the fourth. Her movements were not graceful like the or powerful like the, but they were efficient. They were human. 40 seconds, the course was complete. She was not even breathing hard. The laughter died down a little. Some cadets looked confused. That was faster than expected. Turn to Al. Raise the difficulty, she said. Al's scales shifted. Cadet, the system is calibrated for your species. Raise it, please. Something passed between them. A challenge, a question, did not look away. Al touched the panel, standard. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Difficulty was meant for beings with 4 arms, beings with reflexes twice as fast as humans, beings with metallic skin. New drones rose from the floor. They were bigger, faster. Their arms ended in blunt striking surfaces that could break bones. Took a breath and moved. The first drone struck at her. She ducked under its arm and kicked its leg. It stumbled. Another drone came from behind. She spun and caught its arm, using its own momentum to throw it into the first. But there were too many. A strike caught her shoulder. She felt something pop but kept moving. Another hit landed on her ribs, the familiar crack of bone. She ignored it. 2 minutes, she was still standing. Blood dripped from a cut on her forehead. Her arm hung at a bad angle, but she was still fighting. 3 minutes, the drone stopped. She had survived. The arena was silent. No one was laughing now. Wiped blood from her eyes. Higher, she said. Cadet. Higher. Al stared at her. Then he touched the panel again. Standard. The crowd erupted. Cadets jumped to their feet. Even Rose, her golden eyes wide with fear. "She will die," someone shouted. The drones that rose from the floor were war machines. They were built to fight beings covered in natural armor. Their strikes could crack stone. Their speed was incredible. Raised her fists. The first drone attacked. She tried to dodge, but it was too fast. The blow caught her in the chest and sent her flying backward. She hit the wall hard. Something cracked in her back. She got up. The second drone came. She blocked its strike, but the force drove her to her knees. Her arms screamed in pain. She got up. 2 minutes and 47 seconds. The largest drone charged. It was twice her height and made of solid metal. Its arms swung down like a hammer. Did not dodge. She planted her feet on the cold metal floor. She raised her bare hand, and she caught the drone's arm mid-swing. The metal groaned. The drone's motors screamed. The entire training deck shuddered and stopped. Her arm shook violently. Blood vessels burst under her skin, painting her flesh purple. Her bones felt like they were on fire. Every muscle in her body was burning. But she held. "Humans," she said through gritted teeth, "do not break." She twisted. The drone's arm tore free with a horrible shriek of metal. She swung it once, twice, 3 times. The drone shattered into pieces. Then collapsed. The arena was completely silent. No one moved. No one spoke. No one even seemed to breathe. Was the first to react. She jumped from her seat and ran into the arena. She knelt beside and checked for a pulse. "She is alive," said, her voice shaking. "She is alive." Instructor Al walked slowly into the arena. He looked down at the small human girl lying in a pool of her own blood, surrounded by the wreckage of machines that should have killed her. Then he looked at his hand. He raised it slowly. And he saluted. One by one, the other instructors did the same. Then the cadets, even the who had laughed loudest, stood at attention. In the medical observation room above the arena, watched the biometric data scroll across her screen. Her hands were shaking. "Impossible," she whispered. "That should have been impossible." But the data did not lie, had done the impossible, and now everything was about to change. Opened her eyes to white light and soft sounds. She was in the medical bay. The ceiling above her was smooth and clean. Machines beeped quietly around her bed. She tried to move and pain shot through her entire body. "Do not move yet," a voice said. Turned her head slowly. A young woman stood beside her bed. She had black hair and kind eyes, and she was human. "Who are you?" asked. Her voice sounded rough and broken. "My name is, I am a researcher from Earth. I have been studying human adaptation at the Academy," pulled a chair close and sat down. "I have been watching you since you arrived. Watching me fail. Watching you survive." Touched a device on her wrist. A holographic screen appeared in the air between them. "Do you know what you did yesterday?" Looked at the screen. It showed numbers and charts that she did not understand. "I stopped a drone." "You did more than that," pointed to a line on the chart. "This is the maximum force a human body can produce. It is based on our muscle structure, our bone density, our nerve signals. No human should be able to exceed this line." She pointed to another mark, much higher on the chart. "This is what you did." Stared at the number. "How?" "That is what I have been trying to understand." Leaned forward. "Do you know why humans are classified as persistence predators? We can run for long distances. We used to chase animals until they collapsed." "Yes, but that is only part of it." Changed the display. Now it showed images of Earth, frozen mountains, burning deserts, thick jungles, violent oceans. Our planet is a death world. Most species in the galaxy evolved on stable worlds with gentle weather and predictable conditions. Earth is chaos. The images shifted. Ice ages, volcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, plagues that killed millions. "Everything on Earth tried to kill us," continued. "The weather, The animals, the diseases, even other humans. We should have died out 1,000 times, but we did not. We adapted, said. We did more than adapt. We evolved to overcome anything. Brought up new data. Your bones broke 3 times in training. Each time they healed, they came back stronger. Your muscles have increased in density by 17% since you arrived. Your heart pumps blood more efficiently now than it did on Earth. Looked at her own hands. They were wrapped in bandages, but she could feel them healing beneath the cloth. Other species are specialized, explained. Have armor, but they cannot change. Are fast, but their bodies stay the same. Have 4 arms, but they never grow stronger than their genetics allow. She paused. Humans have no limits, or rather our limits are not fixed. When we face stress, we change. When we face danger, we improve. When something is too hard for us, we become harder. I did not know I was doing this, said. You did not need to know. Your body did it automatically. Pulled up the data from the training deck. When that drone attacked you, your body released massive amounts of adrenaline. Your pain receptors shut off. Your muscles recruited at 100% capacity. Most beings can only use about 60% of their muscle strength. Anything more and the body tears itself apart. But I did not tear apart. No, because your body was already prepared. All those weeks of breaking and healing made you stronger. When you needed that strength, it was there. Was quiet for a long moment. Is this normal for humans? Smiled. Every human has this potential. You just pushed yourself far enough to unlock it. She stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the stars burned cold and distant. The galaxy has underestimated our species for a long time. They see us as weak because we are small, fragile because our bones can break, primitive because we have no natural weapons. She turned back to. They do not understand that our weakness is our strength. We break so that we can heal stronger. We fail so that we can learn. We fall so that we can rise higher than before. The door to the medical bay opened. Instructor Al entered. He looked strange in this clean white room, his dark scales out of place among the soft lights. Cadet, he said, you are awake. Yes, instructor. Al walked to her bedside. His yellow eyes studied her face. I have trained thousands of cadets from hundreds of species. I have never seen anything like what you did. I just did not want to lose, said. That is what makes your species terrifying. Al's voice was low and serious. Other beings fight until they cannot fight anymore. Humans fight until they win or until they die. There is no middle ground. He reached into his uniform and pulled out a small medal. It was silver with a red stone in the center. This is the mark of valor. It is given to cadets who show exceptional courage. In 300 years, no first-year cadet has ever received it. He placed the medal on her blanket. Until now. Looked at the medal. It was small and simple, but it felt heavy with meaning. The other cadets have stopped laughing, Al continued. Some of them are afraid now. They see what you are capable of, and they wonder what other humans might do. I am not special, said. I am just stubborn. That is exactly what makes you special. Al turned to leave but stopped at the door. The High General wants to see you when you recover. He has questions about your species. After he left, returned to his bedside. What will you tell the High General? She asked. Looked at the medal in her hand. She thought about waiting on Earth. She thought about all the humans who would come after her. She thought about the galaxy that had laughed at her kind. I will tell him the truth, she said. Humans are not the strongest. We are not the fastest. We have no armor and no claws and no special powers. She closed her fingers around the medal. But we never give up, and in the end, that is all that matters. Outside the medical bay window, the stars continued to burn. Somewhere among them, billions of humans were living their lives, unaware of what had happened here, unaware that a 19-year-old girl had just changed how the galaxy saw them. The age of humanity was only beginning. and the galaxy would never laugh at them again. 1 year later, stood on the deck of a military transport ship. The planet below was red and angry. Storms covered half its surface. Lightning flashed in clouds that stretched for thousands of kilometers. This was 9, the final test. All cadets report to drop pods, the ship's computer announced. Final assessment begins in 10 minutes. Checked her equipment one last time. Light armor, basic weapons, emergency supplies, not much for a planet that wanted to kill her. Are you ready? Stood beside her. They had changed in the past year. They had trained together, eaten together, bled together, was no longer just a curious observer. She was a friend. Ready as I will ever be, said. Their team was 5 cadets, a named who had once called her Glass Bones, a named who had laughed loudest at her arrival, and a stone creature named who rarely spoke at all. None of them laughed at her anymore. The drop pods fell through the atmosphere like metal tears. Fire burned around them. The pods shook so hard that its teeth rattled. Then they hit the ground with a crash that threw everyone against their harnesses. Was the first one out. She scanned the area with her eyes and saw only rock and dust and the distant shapes of mountains. The air was thin and smelled like metal. Everyone okay? She asked. Alive, grunted as he climbed from his pod. His hard shell was cracked in 2 places, but he could still move. Bruised but functional, added. Emerged last, using all 4 arms to pull herself free. The pilot is dead. The crash damaged his pod. Looked at the wrecked pod. There was nothing they could do for the pilot now. How far to the extraction point? She asked. Checked his navigation device. His voice was like grinding stones. 300 kilometers northeast. Any transport? Destroyed in the crash. Made a frustrated sound. That is impossible. We have no vehicles, minimal weapons, and this planet is full of hostile creatures. No team has ever completed the assessment under these conditions. Everyone looked at. She checked her boots. She tightened her pack. She looked toward the northeast, where mountains rose like broken teeth against the red sky. Then we walk, she said. They walked. The first day was hard. The ground was uneven and covered with sharp rocks that cut through their boots. The air was so thin that breathing felt like work. Strange creatures watched them from the shadows, waiting for weakness. The second day was harder. An acid swamp blocked their path. The liquid burned through clothing and skin, wrapped her wounds with torn cloth and kept walking. When fell behind, carried her pack. The third day they were attacked. The creatures came from underground. They were like giant worms with mouths full of spinning teeth. There were dozens of them. Fought with his massive fists, crushing any worm that came close. Was a blur of claws and teeth. Stood like a mountain, letting the worms break themselves against his stone body. But fought differently. She was small and weak compared to the others, but she was smart. She found the leader of the pack and killed it. When the leader died, the others fled. How did you know to do that? Asked afterward, purple blood dripping from her 4 arms. Humans learned this long ago, said. Kill the leader and the pack falls apart. We did not have claws or armor, we had to think. On the 4th day, disaster struck. A rockslide came without warning. Stones fell from the mountain like rain. Everyone ran, but was not fast enough. A boulder struck her leg with a horrible cracking sound. Ran back for her. Leave me, gasped. Her leg was bent at a wrong angle. The bone was clearly broken. I cannot walk. You need to finish the assessment. Knelt beside her. I am not leaving you. Be practical. 1 failure is acceptable, if the whole team dies. I said no. Lifted onto her back. That was heavier than she looked. Metal skin and 4 arms added up to a lot of weight. Legs screamed in protest. She started walking. You will kill yourself, said. Maybe. This is madness. This is human. She carried for 16 kilometers, her muscles burned, her bones ached, her lungs felt like they were full of fire, but she did not stop, she could not stop. Offered to help but refused. Save your strength, we might need to fight again. The mountains grew closer. The extraction point was somewhere on the other side, just a little further, just a few more steps. On the 5th day, they reached the extraction zone. The landing pad was empty. No other teams had arrived. When finally set down, she collapsed beside her, breathing in gasps that hurt her chest. "We made it," whispered. "You carried me all that way and we made it." "Told you," managed to say. "Humans do not quit." The rescue shuttle arrived an hour later. Instructor Al was the first one off. He looked at the 5 cadets, battered and bloody and barely alive, and his yellow eyes widened. "You completed the course," he said, "under impossible conditions, with no transport and a wounded team member." He looked at, she was still lying on the ground, too exhausted to stand. 3 other teams called for emergency rescue. 2 teams never made it at all. You are the only team to finish intact. He walked closer and stood over her. "How?" he asked simply. Looked up at him, her lips cracked into a tired smile. "We walked, we fought, we did not stop." Al was silent for a long moment. Then he did something he had only done once before. He saluted. "On your feet, cadet," he said. "You have a graduation to attend." 1 week later, stood in the Academy's great hall. Thousands of beings filled the seats. Flags from hundreds of worlds hung from the ceiling. Light poured through windows that showed the stars beyond. High General Or stood at the podium. He was ancient, his scales faded with age, but his eyes were still sharp. "We are here to honor our graduates," he said. "But today, I want to speak about one of them in particular." He turned toward. 1 year ago, this human arrived at our academy. She was small, she was weak, many of you laughed at her. His eyes swept across the crowd. "I know, I heard the laughter myself." Silence filled the hall. "You saw everything she lacked. No armor, no claws, no natural weapons. You thought she would fail, you thought she would quit." He paused. "You were wrong." He walked down from the podium and stood before. Humans are not the strongest species in the galaxy. They are not the fastest or the toughest, but they have something that no other species has. He placed his old hand on her shoulder. They refuse to break. They refuse to give up. They fall down and they get back up. They break and they heal stronger. They fail and they try again. His voice rose. "This is not weakness. This is the greatest strength of all. Because in the end, the one who wins is not the strongest or the fastest. The one who wins is the one who is still standing when everyone else has fallen." He stepped back. "Cadet, you have earned your place among us. You have earned the respect of this academy, and you have earned something else." He turned to the crowd. "She has earned the right to represent not just herself but her entire species. Let the galaxy know, humans are here, and they are not going anywhere." The applause was like thunder. It filled the hall and shook the walls. Cadets who had once laughed now stood and cheered. Instructors who had doubted now saluted. But did not hear them. She was looking at a small screen in her hand. On it, his face smiled back at her, tears running down her cheeks. "You did it," whispered across the light years. "You really did it." Smiled back. "We did it," she said. "Humanity did it." She looked up at the stars through the great windows. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were waiting. Children who would dream of following her path. Soldiers who would carry the banner she had raised. Scientists and explorers and dreamers who would reach for new worlds. The galaxy had laughed at them once. They would never laugh again. Because now they knew the truth. Humans were small. Humans were fragile. Humans broke easily and healed slowly and died young. But humans never, ever gave up. And that made them the most dangerous species in the universe. The end.